ਮੈਡੀਕਲ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਹੂਲਤਾਂ ਚਾਹੀਦੀਆਂ ਉਹ ਇੱਥੇ ਆਰਾਮ ਨਾਲ ਆ ਕੇ ਪਾਕਿਸਤਾਨ ਤੋਂ ਜਾਂ ਹੋਰ ਇੱਥੇ ਬਾਈ ਰੋਡ ਵੀ ਆ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ ਉਹ ਇੱਥੇ ਇਲਾਜ ਕਰਾਇਆ ਕਰਨਗੇ ਤੇ ਬਾਹਰੋਂ ਦੇਸ਼ਾਂ 'ਚੋਂ ਆ ਕੇ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਬਾਹਰਲੇ ਦੇਸ਼ਾਂ 'ਚ ਬਹੁਤ ਮਹਿੰਗਾ ਇਲਾਜ ਹੈ ਇੱਥੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਫੈਸਿਲਿਟੀਆਂ ਤਿਆਰ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਮੈਡੀਕल टूरिज्म ਨੂੰ बढ़ावा देवांगे।
कोई भी पागल वहां आ जाए तो क्या होगा देश का? उनके एटम बॉम्ब है। यदि आपने उनसे बात की, उनको इज्जत अफजाया, तो तभी जाकर वो अपने बम के बारे में नहीं सोचेंगे। लेकिन आपको उनको ठुकरा दिया और बच्चे जैसे कुट्टी कहते रहे, तो कोई पागल वहां आ जाए वो बम निकाल ले और फिर क्या होगा?
In October 1962, the Chinese allegedly invaded India. On the day that Tawan fell, the Foreign Service exams began in London. When they were over, the newspapers used to make references to me as being very left-wing, as being a communist.
Alleged, viewers. Alleged, as if we all dreamed up Chinese aggression, as if it doesn't happen, it's all alleged. हम पाकिस्तान को क्या सिखा रहे हैं, says the eloquent Mr. Tharoor. He asked that question. What are we teaching Pakistan? He says. Well, viewers, to him is a short response. We are teaching Pakistan a simple lesson, that there will be prohibitive costs imposed upon it if it dares to export Islamist terror across the LOC, to bleed India through a policy that it has adopted. Viewers, the BJP wasted no time in lashing out at the Congress. Here is the BJP taking on the Congress.
कांग्रेस ने जो देश के साथ अन्याय वर्षों तक किया है और जो देश को कमजोर भी किया, नहीं तो कोई कारण नहीं था कि भारत की ये स्थिति होती। हमारे साथ वाले देश आज विकसित देश बन गए हैं और भारत को आज भी नरेंद्र मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में गति मिली।
ये अपमान है हर उस सैनिक का जिसने तिरंगे के लिए शहादत दी, अपनी जान कुर्बान कर दी। लेकिन ये जहरीली सोच कहीं और से नहीं आती है। ये वही राहुल गांधी है जो डोकलाम के समय हक्का नूडल्स खाता था चीनी दूतावास के साथ।
कांग्रेस पार्टी का चाइना प्रेम फिर से सामने निकल कर आया है। जो अंकल मणि, जो प्रथम परिवार के अंकल है, मुकुट मणि है, पहले उन्होंने पाकिस्तान प्रेम दर्शाया। ये वही व्यक्ति थे जो पाकिस्तान गए थे मोदी को हटाने के लिए, कह रहे थे पाकिस्तान से हमें घबराना चाहिए। उन पर कांग्रेस ने कोई कार्रवाई नहीं की। अब वो कहते हैं कि 1962 में चाइना ने अलेजिडली इन्वेड किया, मतलब कि वो चाइना को किस प्रकार से क्लीन चिट दे रहे हैं।
Is there truth to the charge that India's arch foes Pakistan and China are blind spots for the Congress? Now here are some hard facts for you to ponder, viewers, and I always bring you these hard facts so that you can get closer to the truth, that you can also contextualize developments around issues. Let's go one by one. Post 2611, Congress's, or at least Congress exhibited tactical restraint when it could have actually engaged Pakistan and those on the other side of the LOC that were exporting terror by taking them on. Now viewers, that happened. A muscular response came after Uri, but on this issue of why no action was taken, Shankar Menon, who is a former NSA, had this to say. Simple answer to why India did not immediately attack Pakistan after 2611 is that after examining the options at the highest levels of government, the decision makers concluded that more was to be gained from not attacking Pakistan than from attacking it. This is, viewers, a bit like America after 9/11 saying that not attacking Pakistan and Afghanistan, AFPAC region, would actually lead to greater gains for America than the gains from attacking it. A limited strike, Shankar Menon says, on selected terrorist targets, say the LET headquarters in Muridke or the LET camps in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, would have had limited practical utility and hardly an effect on the organization. This, viewers, was the thinking of the UPA back then. Then, viewers, the UPA dealing terror from talks. Right after 26/11, it didn't take them much time. Can you imagine, viewers? And how do we know this? Let me read out the excerpt of the Sharm el-Sheikh agreement that was signed in 2009. And it says, both prime ministers recognize that dialogue is the only way forward. Action on terrorism should not be linked to the composite dialogue process, and these should not be bracketed. Prime Minister Singh said that India was ready to discuss all issues with Pakistan, including all outstanding issues. Can you believe it, viewers? There was no cost imposed on Pakistan for its bad behavior. We'll still talk to you, we'll share biryani and have a good time with you. You can keep attacking us, bleeding us. This was actually woven in to an official pact, which after that was used by that man on your screens, viewers, the then Prime Minister, Gilani of Pakistan, to claim to everybody, see, I told you, the Indians are equally culpable of destabilizing Pakistan, and therefore they have decided that, look, we'll not hyphenate talks with terror. Can you believe it, viewers? Then came the clean chit to Pakistan on 26/11, and these are umpteen clean chits. I'll just give you the latest example. Quote, the bullet that killed Mumbai police officer Hemant Karkare was not fired from Kasab's gun, but from a police officer loyal to RSS at that time, unquote. This is Vijay Vadettiwar, LOP of the Congress, the leader of the opposition of the Congress in the Maharashtra Assembly. These are his views, viewers. Apologies for even Kasab. UPA versus China, viewers. I've called it borderline negligence question mark. This is A.K. Antony, not anyone else. A.K. Antony saying, and I quote, independent India has a policy for many years that the best defense is not to develop the border. Undeveloped border is more safe than developed border. So many years, there was no construction of roads, airfields, nothing in the border areas. By that time, China continued to develop their infrastructure in the border areas. As a result, they have now gone ahead of us. Compared to us, infrastructure-wise, capability-wise, in the border areas, they are ahead. I admit that. It is a part of history, unquote. This is A.K. Antony, ex-defense minister, in the Lok Sabha in 2013. He wasn't talking to some news channel. UPA versus China, borderline negligence question mark, another instance. Quote, NDA increased BRO, Border Road Organization budget from rupees 3,782 crores in 2013-14, which was the amount the UPA was putting down, to 14,000. Almost, viewers, 4 times. More than 4 times. 14,000 crore in 2023-2024. This is information that was provided by S. Shankar, External Affairs Minister. Viewers, what am I to make out of this? But go there and headline the fundamental question that we are asking on this debate. Is that are China and Pakistan blind spots? India's arch enemies, blind spots for the Congress. And let me begin first by getting a nuanced perspective from Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow of the ORF. Mr. Sareen, I put out some hard facts. I am not saying that governments, including the NDA, have the greatest record in tackling, let's say, China, for instance. Yes, some moves have been made to try and cauterize China, contain it, and some of them are paying dividends. We could have done a lot more. There's always that argument, and I concede it. But let me ask you this fundamental question. Was the UPA blinded towards Pakistan and China? It's the baseline question tonight, viewers.
I think quite clearly, if you look at the kind of utterances which have come from UPA leaders over the years, whether it's on terror attacks, whether it's on defense policy, whether it's senior members of the party from Digvijay Singh to Manishankar Aiyar being motor mouths, not having any control over their tongue, and then the Congress party in sheer panic throwing them under the bus. But when they articulate the kind of nonsensical views they articulate, there is a kind of a culture that has built up in the Congress party. Now, I don't know why the Congress party has built up this culture, because what it has done is it has damaged them. It has raised very serious questions about their credentials on national security, whether national security is even safe in the hands of the Congress party. And it actually scares a lot of people. And then, for somebody like Mr. Tharoor, who's an experienced diplomat in his own right, to say that, okay, fine, a new government will come and a new policy will come. I thought there is continuity in foreign policy, that foreign policy of India is not a foreign policy of a particular government, it's a foreign policy of the Indian state. And all Indians are morally, you can have some differences on nuances of or the direction of foreign policy, but otherwise your basic foreign policy objectives are the same. And if you are going to completely upend it, because now you have come into power, then I don't know what this whole nonsense about, continuity in foreign policy was all about. So I think very serious questions have to be raised. The problem, however, is that, okay, fine, you go to Amritsar. Yes, there were some traders in Amritsar who were doing some trade across the border. Yeah, maybe, they've lost some opportunities. But is India on a whole better off or not by stopping trade with Pakistan? And if, on your program, I watched your program the other day, I have also written a piece on that. What was the quantum of trade we were doing with Pakistan? It was negligible. It was even worse than negligible, right? So there was nothing that the Pakistanis were bringing to the table. In fact, what they were actually bringing through the trade route was drugs. What they were actually bringing through the trade route was they were doing gun running, for example, in Kashmir, the cross LOC trade. There were huge problems of money laundering that were taking place. So the point is that if for reasons of electoral compulsions, you are going to ignore all the other stuff which was happening and then do this kind of virtue signaling, I don't know how it helps your cause really. Maybe those 5 or 10 traders who were trading with across the border might vote for you, but there will be a million other people whom you are actually going to really, you're really going to irritate the hell out of them, because it doesn't really work the way these guys are doing things. And I think the Congress party really needs to look at why it has lost that platform of national security. It's literally a walkover that they've given to the BJP.
Yeah.
And frankly, I find it, even as a political strategy, I'm befuddled by what great
Let's bring in Mr. Nikul Patel, and also, of course, the national spokesperson of the BJP, Sanju Verma. But Mr. Patel, let me come to you. De-hyphenating talks from terror, very dangerous, isn't it? Mr. Tharoor articulated it. Today you have another apologist in Mr. Aiyar, who has tried to sort of whitewash Chinese aggression, painting them out to be some lovely fuzzy teddy bears sitting on the north of our border. This seems to be a culture of permissiveness. And if you go back to 2009, it is stated policy of the UPA that we will de-hyphenate terror from talks. That day you were very excited, you were upset with me, you were very excited. But today, rationally, since I brought out the hard facts, brought out the Sharm el-Sheikh agreement that you scripted, the Congress party, with Pakistan, it's written there. I want to ask you, why is this culture of permissiveness? What do you owe Pakistan or China?
See, whenever we are talking of Pakistan as well as China, I would like to, Rahul, see that it should be seen right from the independence, right? You are just quoting few examples and then you want to try to culminate that the Congress is always acting like this. That is not correct. Secondly, my co-panelist was asking that Congress is not good at internal security or about the security of the entire country. I would like to again tell him that whenever it has come to an internal security, I said on that day also, and again I am telling today also, that whenever it was to bring entire nation together, it was Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel of Congress who bring the country to a single state. Secondly, when it was, you'll get your time. Secondly, it was when it was Indira Gandhi time and Pakistan and Bangladesh, it was divided into two parts. Again, it was when it was to the Punjab, we know that how the Khalistani movement was being taken out, and the entire country was being to the state. So internal security, whenever it has come, Congress had played its role, and it always tried to put the nation together. Now, when it comes to a policy, we always see that whenever you are talking of bilateral talks, we have solved so many things into an international level by bilateral talks. And suppose at some point of time, the government at that time feel that that should be a discussion, then I think even the present BJP government is in discussion with so many
Can I ask
international
you,
countries. But now the
Mr.
Pakistan
Patel,
is a special case, right? If we don't want to continue the relation, then it's definitely we cannot, because they are supporting terrorism.
Okay, so one
that
second.
I agree with
Mr.
you.
Patel, if you agree with me, then I just want to ask you, you said, you're just quoting some examples to make a story. I'm not quoting an example, sir. I'm quoting, I'm sorry to say, but an ex-Minister of External Affairs from the UPA ranks, Mr. Tharoor, who's sitting in Punjab, border state, and saying we're going to open the borders. There's going to be a lot of lovely trade and friendship, and we'll exchange pistachios and 8 AM bottles of whiskey across the border. But I want to ask you, Mr. Nakul Patel, you believe that the Shimla Agreement was a legitimate document, yes or no?
Shimla Agreement. It's a document, yeah.
It's a legitimate document. Sharm el-Sheikh Agreement is also a legitimate document signed between Dr. Manmohan Singh, a sovereign power, as well as the Mr. Gilani, who was at that time the Prime Minister of Pakistan in 2009. And what does it say? That we are dehyphenating terror from talk. So this is not some random example I'm picking. This was your stated government policy, sir.
So that is what I'm communicating to you as well as to the audience, right? That
no, but itni meherbani kyun kar rahe the? Just after 26/11, that is the question. Was it vote bank? Anyhow, let's open this up. Let's open this up further. Let me bring in Sanju Verma. Sanju Verma, look, the Congress will turn around and say that, look, the Prime Minister was lying, quote unquote. That's what they will say. When he says no territory was conceded in Siachen, etc., Eastern Ladakh, to China recently, as you know, during COVID. They'll say all of that. How do you respond tonight to what Mr. Patel is saying? That we are just quoting small examples to make drama.
Rahul, I'll take off from where Sushant Sareen, he made some very pertinent points, and I'll take off from there. You gave a very comprehensive introduction at the start of this discussion. First things first, let's be very clear that Prime Minister Narendra Modi was the first Prime Minister to dehyphenate the Israel policy of India with respect to the Arab world and Palestine by visiting Israel in 2017, and subsequently the first Prime Minister in 2018 to officially be visiting Ramallah. But that's not the point. Be it rejuvenating the Quad, which has been in existence since 2007, but it took a Narendra Modi in 2020 during COVID to ensure that Quad became a vibrant forum for dialogue and not just another decadent platform, or be it the 2+2 ministerial dialogue with the United States of America in September 2018, buckling under US pressure and continuing to sign the S-400 deal with United States, with the Russians, or for that matter, being a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council from 2021 to 2023 for 2 good years, or hosting a fabulous G20 summit. Now it's of course G21 with the inclusion of 55 African nations. I think Prime Minister Narendra Modi's foreign policy has been one of his biggest success stories. And look at the stark contrast. You had Shahid Latif, who was killed a couple of months back in Pakistan. This is the same guy who perpetrated the Pathankot terror attack of 2016. And in 2010, to ensure better relations with Pakistan, for no good rhyme or reason, Shahid Latif and 24 other terrorists were let off by Sonia Gandhi / Manmohan Singh in a bid to improve bilateral ties. And Shahid Latif then a couple of years later perpetrated the Pathankot terror attack. But after the Pulwama terror attack, look at the change in stance of India. We clearly revoked the most favored nation status of Pakistan. And we had nothing to lose really. Because, prior to revoking MFN status for Pakistan, our imports from Pakistan were close to $495 or $500 million. And after revoking, Pakistan's MFN status, our imports from Pakistan virtually fell to about $20 to $22 million.
Yeah.
And we lost nothing, but the inflation in Pakistan soared to 47% plus because they were bereft of so many essentials, which they counted upon India's goodwill to be sending to them. So the first point is this, that, if you say that Narendra Modi engages in only soft diplomacy, nahi bhaiya. पाकिस्तान को हमने सिर्फ जवाब नहीं दिया, मुंह तोड़ के जवाब दिया, be it the surgical strike of 2016 or be it the Balakot strike of 2019, where we destroyed 30 terror launch pads by going deep into the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa area. You cannot doubt Narendra Modi's policy with respect to national, international security apparatus, but in 10 seconds. My question to Mani Shankar Aiyar is this. पहले आप कहते थे इन्हें हटाइए हमें लेकर आइए when you went to Pakistan, इन्हें हटाइए मतलब मोदी जी को हटाइए और राहुल गांधी को लेकर आइए. Now a few weeks back you were saying, अरे आपको क्या लगता है if the Indian government is strong, Pakistan also has a bomb with it can retaliate. And Farooq Abdullah says, do you think Pakistan ने चूड़ियां पहन के रखी हैं? Why this bomb homie with Pakistan? Why this bomb homie with the Chinese?
Let me bring you in, Mr. Kamru Chaudhary. Very important. You can today dismiss Mr. Mani Shankar Aiyar as a geriatric figure, as Mr. Jairam Ramesh has. That give an old man leeway. That's what he sort of said. But I want to ask you this hua to hua kind of approach to foreign policy. Mr. Chaudhary, how do I know? How do viewers who are watching, who might be potential Congress voters, etc., or others, who are listening to or reading the Congress manifesto and are yet to vote, how can you tell them that Mr. Tharoor, who is a former external affairs minister of this country and is a very, very influential figure in your party and perhaps also, and of course, is part of the intellectual cell as well as the foreign policy cell, what he is saying about delinking terror from talks will not happen, especially when it did happen. It did happen in writing in 2009.
Can I, Rahul? Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah.
A few years ago, when you were discussing about the Kargil issue, I believe to have participated in your debate, where you said time to separate fact from rhetoric. If you remember, let me just remind you. You were discussing the Kargil issue. Today, when you were discussing about the foreign affairs relationship with our neighbors vis-a-vis China and Pakistan, can you remember one journalist from India who has ever visited Ladakh after all the issues that have come up into the public domain? All of us, the journalists particularly I'm telling, have visited Kargil. But none of the journalists of India has ever been allowed to visit Ladakh. Out of the 65 patrolling points in Ladakh, India has no access to 26 patrolling points in Ladakh. The basic point is that the Ladakh's around more than 1,000 square kilometers of Indian territory is inaccessible. I'm not telling is occupied, it's inaccessible. The basic point when the Prime Minister comes on an opposition meet and says, ना कोई हमारा सीमा में घुसा, ना ही पोस्ट किसी के कब्जा में है. Why did the Prime Minister lie to the nation? This is the first point. Second point, when India attended the SCO summit,
let him finish.
When the Prime Minister attended the SCO summit in 2016, did he meet Nawaz Sharif out there? In 2014, why was the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Nawaz Sharif, invited to India to have some dhoklas and khakras? In 2000, why did the Prime Minister Narendra Modi go to Pakistan to have biryani with them? If we are having no talks, no terror, that type of attitude of the foreign policy.
Okay, so what is the point you are making?
May I please come in, Rahul?
The point.
This cannot go
Come on, madam.
No, one second. One second. No, I asked you a question.
We want to know one question. We want to know one simple answer.
1 second.
What is the status as of now between Debsan and Dhamchak?
Right.
What is the status
we'll get
now?
that. We'll get that. I'll put that question separately to Mr. Sareen. One second. One second. Mr. Chaudhary, I'm only asking you a question based on an affirmative statement made by Mr. Tharoor. What did he say? That we will dehyphenate terror from trade and we will resume or we will...
Can I reply to that?
So I'm just asking you, should I then believe... Yes.
I'll take 10 seconds.
Yeah, very tense.
Rahul,
Yeah.
Rahul, from 2019 till 2024, Narendra Modi's second term, the trade deficit with China is touched.
I'm talking about
300
Pakistan, sir. Very
no,
simply.
Wait, sir. Let me
Should I
come.
give
Let
you
me
the
finish.
numbers? I also have
No,
numbers.
let me
No,
tell you
from
the number.
1 billion in
You
2002 to the
do
end
not
of your
want me to
term,
place out the points in the
to
public
your
domain.
term,
This
it
man
went
is
up by
rambling on.
1,000 percentage points by the end of it.
It's
It was
not my
already
term
at
and your term.
30,000.
It's India's future,
No.
India's trade balance in question.
It was
that I'm
already
questioning.
inflated, sir.
$387 billion is the trade deficit
I
with
mean,
China.
My
Where do
dear,
you
it had
want
already
to be-
reached. It had
No,
already
where
reached.
do you want it to be counterbalanced
Okay, one second,
if
one
you
second,
don't
one second.
trade
See, viewers,
with Pakistan, with
you are not going
Sri
to get an
Lanka,
answer.
with Bangladesh.
The entire economy, let me tell you, viewers, in 2002, we had a $1 billion trade deficit with China. India had already been liberalized for 10 years. Under the UPA, that changed. That number ballooned. That number ballooned by thousands of percentage points. You were already so dependent on China that no government could immediately pull the plug. And now they are blaming the present government. That's a bit rich, Mr. Chaudhary. But anyhow, let me just bring in Sanju Verma. She wants to make a quick point, as Sushant Sareen, on the last point about inaccessible patrolling points. Yes, Sanju
You know,
Verma.
Rahul, let's be very clear. You know, people who come on your show perhaps don't even know, some of them, the difference between trade deficit and budget deficit, GDP and GNP, Aadhaar card and PAN card, but they will sit here and wax eloquent about Narendra Modi's foreign policy. But moving away from rhetoric, let me be very clear. China today, and this is well documented publicly, has a border, which it shares with 18 odd nations, but it has territorial disputes with 24 odd nations.
Yes.
For the first time in February 2021, thanks to Narendra Modi, and I say this without any qualms whatsoever, thanks to our government and our strong foreign policy echoed by our External Affairs Minister, Mr. Shankar as well, China was forced to voluntarily disengage in February 2021 post the Galwan standoff. And this is in sharp contrast to the 38,000 square kilometers which Nehru handed over
Hard fact.
in
Very
Aksai
quickly.
Chin.
Sushant
Please,
Sareen.
can I finish, Rahul? 38,000 square kilometers. Why is this man giving background
Okay,
music?
just I
Because
don't
he
have
doesn't
all
like
the
it
time.
open.
Please, I have
Thank
to go
you.
into
Can I
this.
finish?
Yeah, finish.
38,000 square kilometers of Aksai Chain were handed over to the Chinese by Pandit Nehru on a golden platter, and that's not all. Be it large tracts of land in Chabji Valley or Tiyapangna. Nehru gave them over to the Chinese.
Let's move away. Let's move away from the two political voices here. Let me bring in Sushant Sareen. Sushant Sareen, how badly off are we at the LAC?
We're not badly off. In fact, I think we've really beefed up our defenses and stalled whatever the Chinese were trying to do. The Chinese are now trying to look for some kind of a face-saving exit. We are not backing down, and I think that is something which has to be considered.
Okay.
But let me very quickly allow me a minute, half a minute.
Okay, I need to really go in for a break. Yeah.
Shankar here claims he was the last recruit and China allegedly invaded India. And as Sanju says that since, you were gifting away land to China anyways, so maybe it was an alleged invasion, not a real one, according to Mr. Manishankar here. But when Mr. Patel talks about Sardar Patel and Indira Gandhi and what they did, that was a different Congress party. This is not the same Congress party. This is an NGO now. This behaves like an NGO. And what Mr. Kamuji said, he's learned well at the feet of that Nazi fellow Goebbels that you keep repeating the same lie over and over again from the truth.
Okay, let's not.
In a specific context.
Okay, gentlemen, let's not hit below the belt. Let's not hit below the belt. 1 second, let's not hit below the belt. The fact that I need to move on, viewers. There is another very big issue that we need to address, and I have run out of time on this debate. But viewers, look at your pictures on your screen. Prime Minister Modi's decision to meditate in Kanyakumari at the Dhyan Mandapam on Vivekananda's rock memorial has caused the opposition to agitate. The Congress has complained to the Election Commission, and let me read an excerpt of what the Congress party has written in its complaint to the Election Commission. It says, quote, Election Commission should not grant permission for Prime Minister's program. Such a move is an attempt at indirect campaigning after the end of canvassing for votes. Modi is trying to covertly campaign through the media during 48 hours silent period. As you know, viewers, Mr. Modi is going to finish his campaign in Kashi and go straight to Kanyakumari, where he is going to enter the Dhyan Mandapam. They are saying that this will constitute campaigning. Mamata Banerjee has also said pretty much the same thing. She says visuals will come, you'll be televising the meditation retreat. And this will amount to a violation of the model code of conduct. Who goes to meditate with TV cameras, question mark, in the name of meditation? It is a plot to garner votes during the silence period, unquote. Now viewers, is the opposition guilty of overreacting? What does the spiritual act of meditating have to do with Hindutva, political signalling, with politics simply? Tomorrow, if the Prime Minister were to post his picture performing yogana asanas, which is little more than paying a spiritual oblation to the gods of fitness, would the Prime Minister stand accused of influencing voters? And what are we talking about, viewers? Does the Prime Minister even need to prove his Hindutva credentials? I don't think anyone is in doubt. The core voter, the core BJP voter is going to vote blindly for the BJP irrespective of anything because he believes that the party best represents his or her interests. I'm talking about that core Hindutva vote bank, viewers. The Prime Minister doesn't constantly need to signal. They're very confident of the Prime Minister's commitment to their interests. So let's open this up. Let's ask some questions. We're going to be joined by Mr. S. Gurumurthy, editor of the Tughlaq, in just a few moments. Shankar Aiyar, senior journalist, and Kamru Chaudhary are also there with us. Shankar Aiyar, where is this agitation over meditation coming from? What is happening here exactly?
You know, Congress has got into that kind of a groove where they feel that everything that the Prime Minister does should be criticized.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is a needless thing. Look, people who are practicing Vipassana should not have problems with the Prime Minister doing his bit of meditation or ekantavas as per the tradition he has followed. I mean, he chose to go to Kedarnath in 2019. This time he has chosen to go to Vivekananda Rock Memorial, which was incidentally set up by Eknath Ranade. It was inaugurated way back in 1970, and that rock has a significance because 24th December 1892, that was the time when Vivekananda rose from his deep contemplation and decided to commit himself to the welfare of India, for the growth of India, for the development of India. Because Vivekananda felt as a monk he had to do more. So that is how what was called the Kanyakumari resolution of 1892. And similarly, Prime Minister has drawn inspiration from Swami Vivekananda several times. He was also part of the Ramakrishna mission initiation. He had traveled through Himalayas. You know, he has a spiritual tradition. Now, I don't think, for that matter, Prime Minister or anybody's spiritual tradition should not be a subject matter of so much scrutiny and a kind of, you know, even that comment about Paramatma. I mean, we all have faced in our lives, we may believe in a higher being or a higher force. Haven't we gone through lives in moments where we have realized that despite our best of abilities or non-ability or, you know, some things have happened beyond our understanding, the concept of serendipity. You know, these are the things we have seen, you know, in our own lives where we say, "Bhai sab Ishwar ki kripa hai." This grace. And people, you know, it's a Khuda's kripa, Khuda's ye hai. So we have a tradition in India where we always, you know, commit ourselves to larger tasks, seeking the divine presence and divine.
Okay,
that's
so
all that
you're
happens.
saying that we have to draw a distinction between the spiritual act and politics. Okay, let's open this up further. Let me bring in Mr. S. Gurumurthy. We're going to go straight across to him for a one-on-one conversation. Mr. Gurumurthy, who is the editor, of course, of the iconic Tughlaq and also an ideologue in his own right. Mr. Gurumurthy, thank you for speaking to me as always. I want to ask you this. If you were to respond today as, let's say, hypothetically, the Constitutional Authority, the Election Commission, and you were to formulate a response on the complaint that they've received, what would you say? What would your arguments be? If at all you chose to defend the Prime Minister, what would it be?
See, it is a question of how you interpret the Constitution itself. The Constitution has been interpreted after 1995 Hindutva judgment in a completely different way, and that too under the Election Management Act itself, Representation of People's Act itself. The question whether Hindutva, Hinduism, Hindu means purely religious or not was a question that was gone into by the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court decided that the word Hindu or Hinduism or Hindutva does only from religion. It is the national ethos, it is the culture and way of life of the country. That is why the appeal on the ground that the BJP and the Shiva Sena stand for Hindutva was not considered to be a communal appeal. This is the most important break point in the history of the Constitution of India. And it is not that this judgment came only in 1995.
No, yes.
This judgment was sourced in a judgment of the Constitution bench in 1976, peculiarly in a wealth tax case, where in a Hindu undivided family, there was a Christian son and a Christian mother. And the Christian son was the Karta because the father had passed away. And the question arose whether the property of that family was a Hindu undivided family property. The Supreme Court went into an enormous number of authorities, including the Encyclopedia Britannica, to say Hinduism encompasses all faiths, all gods. Even people who do not believe are Hindus. And so we have a completely an unknown tradition, a tradition unknown to the West, unknown to the domain of religion, unknown to the secular domain of the West, beyond the secular sacred conflict of the West. Here is a tradition which the Supreme Court recognized in 1976, on the basis of which the Hindutva judgment was given in 1976, by which this national ethos, culture and value, way of life was considered to be something very distinct and different. And on that basis, the word Hindu itself was not per se regarded as communal, Hinduism or Hindutva. Now, this judgment was sought to be reviewed thrice.
Yes.
In 2016, a 7-judge bench of the Supreme Court went into the other aspects of the Representation of People's Act, but refused to go into reviewing this, because this is not reviewable. Unless we review the entire understanding about Hinduism, you cannot review this judgment. So, when Jawaharlal Nehru said that the Hindu nationalism of Swami Vivekananda was not against anybody, this he wrote in the Discovery of India, in the Glimpses of World History in 1935. Would any congressman dispute it today? Would any secular dispute it today? He is probably the icon of Indian secularism, and he says Hindu nationalism of Swami Vivekananda is not against anybody. And that Jawaharlal Nehru never deviated from that position. So today's discussion is based on utter illiteracy in law, as well as about the foundations of Indian freedom movement, which was founded on Vande Mataram, which was founded on Ramarajya, which was founded on the Hindu nationalism of Swami Vivekananda. And even Mahatma Gandhi said the nation in India is defined by the places of worship strewn all over the world, all over India. There people move from one end, millions, and it is their faith which has brought Indians together in the manner in which no two Englishmen are. But today's discussion is so illiterate. It is not even rooted in the pre-independence values of India. And so the whole approach today is to be dismissed as having nothing to do with the Indian discourse.
Well, it is illiterate, Mr. Gurumurthy, because it is expedient. It has obviously been birthed from this very, very cultivated image of certain politicians in the TMC or in the Congress that only look at protecting a particular vote bank. I don't want to spell it all out, but I think you know what I'm talking about and our viewers understand. But I just want to ask you this question. Many people believe that the Ram Mandir, for instance, was a symbol of political Hindutva. Similarly, you could say that the Prime Minister wearing saffron robes and that image being sort of projected is also a symbol of political Hindutva. How would you address those people who are raising those questions today?
You see, I think many people do not know. When Mrs. Indira Gandhi, another icon of Indian secularism, went to the Vivekananda Rock Memorial. And of course, the Vivekananda Rock Memorial itself was declared open by none other than the constitutional head of India, the President of India. And when Indira Gandhi went there, she said, this represents the national feelings. And the Vivekananda Kendra, the system of life workers, going and spreading the message of Swami Vivekananda as well as doing service to the people, which is the second stage which is sprouted out of the Vivekananda Rock Memorial, she said is an important nation building exercise. So it has nothing to do with religion in the narrow sense. It is not communal. The very word Hindutva, Hinduism is not communal according to the judgment. And I am going a step forward. The political head of India and the constitutional head of India identified themselves as Vivekananda Kendra, and can Modi not go and sit there? And why is he sitting there? That is the rock on which Vivekananda sat after he completed his Parivarajaka tour. He didn't know where to break to make this country great. And he meditated for 3 days, and then he said, I hit upon a plan. And afterwards, he decided to go to Chicago. So that place has a message. It has a profoundness. It has a sacred value. And to reduce it to a mere political conflict, it is against the interest of the nation. It is utterly wrong. It is destroying the idea of India, which Swami Vivekananda defined. And it was accepted by great people like Mahatma Gandhi, who said, if I read Vivekananda, I become 100 times more patriotic than I am. And as I told you about what Jawaharlal Nehru said, Rajaji said, if Swami Vivekananda had not been there, there would not have been a freedom movement. And in that person's name, the constitutional head of India and the political head of India participate in opening the memorial, which has sprouted a huge organization doing service all over the country without regard to caste, creed, religion. And you reduce it to a mere political conflict, a religious conflict. This is the perverted secularism which has gained roots. In this, vested interests have been instituted and created and sustained. That is what is being undone today. And that undoing process has been going on for the last several years, and more particularly in the last 10 years. I think those who oppose this have no sense of what India is, or even what Jawaharlal Nehru and Indira Gandhi represented.
Well, Mr. Gurumurthy, finally, I just want to ask you, the Prime Minister goes there right at the end of the campaigning. And I don't have much time, I just have a minute and a half. I just want to get a sense of what is the larger message that he is delivering from this particular endeavor.
You see, the campaign is over. So he is not campaigning in the name of even Swami Vivekananda or Rekumara Memorial. And he is now envisioning what Swami Vivekananda envisioned in a dark time about where the Indian civilization.
Okay, I think we've lost Mr. Gurumurthy
Where
there.
the Indian civilization.
Yeah, I think there's there is a technical problem there.
Are you hearing me?
I think I've lost you, sir. I've lost you. I can't hear you. I'll leave it at this, viewers. It's been a fascinating conversation as always. We'll be back, of course, with the right stand with Anand Narasimhan. Don't go away.
Known also as Strawberry Village of Kashmir.
Almost every family in this scenic rural town is involved in strawberry farming. Since their shelf life is short, men and women gather at the break of dawn in their fields to pick strawberries. The strawberries are grown organically, free from any chemicals, and are sent to the markets immediately so that they can retain their freshness.
स्ट्रॉबेरी यहाँ पे गॉसू विलेज इसको कहते हैं, स्ट्रॉबेरी विलेज ही कहते हैं इसको। फार्मर्स बहुत पहले से करते आए, पहले कुछ कनाल से स्टार्ट किया, फिर उनको प्रॉफिट लगा तो उन्होंने एक्सपेंड किया इसको, लेकिन मेहनत भी बहुत लगती है इसमें। मई जून में तैयार होती है, मई में ऑलमोस्ट हम इसको उठाते हैं, स्ट्रॉबेरी काटने लग जाते हैं इसमें, लेकिन मेहनत इसमें बहुत ज़्यादा लगती है। मार्केट में जो फर्टिलाइज़र आता है वो हम यूज़ नहीं करते, इसमें नेचुरली काउ डंग जो होता है उसको स्टोर करते हैं, डिकम्पोज होती है, वही यूज़ करते हैं, बिल्कुल नेचुरली होती है। लेकिन जो माहिर होते हैं यहाँ पर स्कॉस्ट यूनिवर्सिटी है, उनका रोल उतना नहीं रहता है इस स्ट्रॉबेरी में। अगर वो रोल इसमें रखेंगे, इसमें नमी रहनी चाहिए ज़मीन में। देखिए आजकल मौसम बहुत ही रैपिडली चेंज होता है, उस वजह इसमें इफेक्ट पड़ता है माल इसमें प्रोडक्ट में बहुत ज़्यादा। इस साल बहुत ही कम प्रोडक्ट निकला क्योंकि मौसम रैपिडली चेंज हो गया। स्टार्टिंग में इसको बारिश ज़्यादा हो गई तो जो निकल गए थे स्ट्रॉबेरी वो ख़राब हो गए थे, फिर अब ज़्यादा धूप आ गई तो रैपिडली जो मौसम चेंज होता है उस वजह से इसमें इफेक्ट पड़ जाता है।
Strawberry farming was introduced in Kashmir not too long ago.
An unprecedented and historic election. A vote that decides Bharat's quest for greatness.
A mandate that paves the way for 1 billion aspirations.
A verdict the world is watching closely. A battle for a rising Bharat's glorious future. Battle for Bharat. Elections equals CNN News 18.
Given its favorable weather conditions, it has generated employment for locals in the valley. Tons of strawberries are being produced by the farmers in the valley, but this time, the weather has affected the production. Farmers have also long demanded the cold storage facility for the produce, as it has a very short shelf life.
यहाँ एक फार्मर को जो बेसिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है ना उसकी कमी है। फॉर एग्जांपल अभी एक फार्मर है यहाँ पे, फॉर एग्जांपल मैं यहाँ पे भी स्ट्रॉबेरी कल्टीवेट कर रहा हूँ। अभी मुझे खाली इतना पता है कि स्ट्रॉबेरी का एक छोटा सा पेड़ लाना है, ज़मीन में देना है और उसके बाद एट द एंड आपको ये
मई जून में आपको ये ना हार्वेस्ट करना है, बस इतना सा मुझे पता है। एक प्रॉपर मैनेजमेंट इन बेचारों को नहीं पता है, एक प्रॉपर मैनेजमेंट एक फार्मर को बिल्कुल भी नहीं पता। जैसे अगर आप इसके पत्ते भी देख सकते हैं कितनी बीमारियां इसमें लगी हुई है। इन बीमारियों को रोकने के लिए अगर आप नीचे भी देखेंगे बहुत सारा फ्रूट ज़ाया भी हुआ है, तो ये ज़ाया होने से भी हम बचा सकते हैं। एक फार्मर को कितनी मेहनत एक ऑर्चर्ड में करनी पड़ती है ये हम फार्मर ही जानते हैं। जैसे कोल्ड स्टोरेज शोपियान डिस्ट्रिक्ट में है, कोल्ड स्टोरेज लासीपुरा साइड से है, अगर वो कोल्ड स्टोरेज का सिस्टम यहाँ पे हो तो ये स्ट्रॉबेरी कुछ टाइम के लिए, एक लिमिटेड पीरियड के लिए हम उनको स्टेन कर सकते हैं।
In the last few years, more and more farmers have converted their land.
Historic third-term dream achievable? Join me, Shapun Das Gupta, for the most dynamic and distinct coverage, unrivaled political punditry, and the sharpest election analysis. Elections equal CNN News 18.
आतंकवाद
Farms.
This is the first harvest of the season in Kashmir Valley when the strawberries get ready. This will be followed by cherry and other fruits as well, which are freshly harvested. This fruit does not need any chemicals. This is cultivated using the cow dung, and then it's ready, red and sent to markets in Kashmir Valley, where they're not only giving business opportunities to these farmers to have an alternate crop in their field where they already are cultivating apples, but also an additional source of income which over the years has only flourished. With Bashir Loon in Srinagar, Ishanwani for CNN News 18.
The India bloc, halt the Modi juggernaut. Join me, Nistula Hebbar, for the most dynamic and distinct coverage, unrivaled political punditry, and the sharpest election analysis. Elections equals CNN News 18.
Welcome back. Next, we're going to take you to strawberry fields forever, the strawberry villages of Kashmir. Families there are busy harvesting strawberries. It's the first produce of the season in the Kashmir region after a long winter.
And due to the erratic weather conditions, the climate change, the overall generation of crop has been affected as well. But the red crop continues to flood the market now. Ishan Wani is in middle of those strawberry farms and he brings us this report.
Surrounded by breathtaking snow-capped peaks is this Gasu village on the Srinagar's outskirts, which is famous for red strawberries. This place started strawberry cultivation around 20 years back, and today results are right in front of you. This particular village gets busy during May.
Alliances will personal equations spoil chances. Join me, Smita Prakash, for the most dynamic and distinct coverage, unrivaled political punditry, and the sharpest election analysis. Elections is equal to CNN News 18.
Strawberry is ready to get harvested. This is known also as Strawberry Village of Kashmir.
Almost every family in this scenic rural town is involved in strawberry farming. Since their shelf life is short, men and women gather at the break of dawn in their fields to pick strawberries. The strawberries are grown organically, free from any chemicals, and are sent to the markets immediately so that they can retain their freshness.
स्ट्रॉबेरी यहाँ पे गासू विलेज इसको कहते हैं, स्ट्रॉबेरी विलेज ही कहते हैं इसको। फार्मर्स बहुत पहले से करते आए, पहले कुछ कनाल से स्टार्ट किया, फिर उनको प्रॉफिट लगा तो उन्होंने एक्सपेंड किया इसको, लेकिन मेहनत भी बहुत लगती है इसमें। मई जून में तैयार होती है, मई में ऑलमोस्ट हम इसको उठाते हैं, स्ट्रॉबेरी काटने लग जाते हैं इसमें, लेकिन मेहनत इसमें बहुत ज़्यादा लगती है। मार्केट में जो फर्टिलाइज़र आता है वो हम यूज़ नहीं करते, इसमें नेचुरली काउ डंग जो होता है उसको स्टोर करते हैं, डिकम्पोज होती है, वही यूज़ करते हैं, बिल्कुल नेचुरली होती है। लेकिन जो माहिर होते हैं यहाँ पर स्कॉस्ट यूनिवर्सिटी है, उनका रोल उतना नहीं रहता है इस स्ट्रॉबेरी में, अगर वो रोल इसमें रखेंगे, इसमें नमी रहनी चाहिए ज़मीन में। देखिए आजकल मौसम बहुत ही रैपिडली चेंज होता है, उस वजह इसमें इफेक्ट पड़ता है माल इसमें प्रोडक्ट में बहुत ज़्यादा। इस साल बहुत ही कम प्रोडक्ट निकला क्योंकि मौसम रैपिडली चेंज हो गया। स्टार्टिंग में इसको बारिश ज़्यादा होगी तो जो
How will these elections impact Bharat's rise in the world? Join me, Dhyan Mandapam, for the most dynamic and distinctive coverage. Unrivaled political punditry and the sharpest election analysis. Elections equals CNN News 18.
जो ख़राब हो गए थे, फिर अब ज़्यादा धूप आ गई तो रैपिडली जो मौसम चेंज होता है उस वजह से इसमें इफेक्ट पड़ जाता है।
Strawberry farming was introduced in Kashmir not too long ago. Given its favorable weather conditions, it has generated employment for locals in the valley. Tons of strawberries are being produced by the farmers in the valley, but this time the weather has affected the production. Farmers have also long demanded the cold storage facility for the produce as it has a very short shelf life.
यहाँ एक फार्मर को जो बेसिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है ना उसकी कमी है। फॉर एग्जांपल अभी एक फार्मर है यहाँ पे, फॉर एग्जांपल मैं यहाँ पे भी स्ट्रॉबेरी कल्टीवेट कर रहा हूँ। अभी मुझे खाली इतना पता है कि स्ट्रॉबेरी का एक छोटा सा पेड़ लाना है, ज़मीन में देना है और उसके बाद एट द एंड आपको ये मई जून में आपको ये हार्वेस्ट करना है। बस इतना सा मुझे पता है। एक प्रॉपर मैनेजमेंट इन बेचारों को नहीं पता है। एक प्रॉपर मैनेजमेंट एक फार्मर को बिल्कुल भी नहीं पता। जैसे अगर आप इसके पत्ते भी देख सकते हैं कितनी बीमारियां इसमें लगी हुई है। इन बीमारियों को रोकने के लिए अगर आप नीचे भी देखेंगे बहुत सारा
CNN News 18 and Federal Bank Prime Time Studio.
Namaste, Jai Hind and welcome to this edition of The Right Stand, coming to you live from the CNN News 18 and Federal Bank Prime Time Studios. My name is Anand Narasimhan and ladies and gentlemen, on this edition of The Right Stand, we will focus on a little bit of history and also why some stalwarts of the Congress party continue to make statements that hurt the sentiments of the Bharatiya. Are there other compulsions beyond just saying, oh, I should have been careful because it's elections, it's poll time? Poll time or not, ladies and gentlemen, when a nation is inimical to us, when a nation wants to gnaw at our boundaries and salami slice through decades, how can we allow a comment like alleged invasion of Bharat in 1962 by the PLA and the CCP